The toothbrush was the wrong color. It was a small thing, insignificant, even a minor detail in the grand scheme of a life lived on autopilot. But as I stood there that Thursday morning in the bathroom we shared, staring down at the dull green toothbrush resting beside mine, something inside me went impossibly still. Ours were blue and red. We bought them together, those stupid matching brushes from that overpriced organic store she insisted on, and she'd chosen red because it looked more assertive. I remember the exact words. The way she said them, jokingly, with that smug little smirk she used when she thought she was being clever. Blue for me. Red for her. That was the unspoken system. Always had been. So where the hell did this green one come from? It wasn't the kind of green you mistake for a faded blue or a washed-out red. It was deep, like pine needles, with a wide black rubber grip that looked foreign against the sterile white ceramic. I stared at it longer than I should have, maybe 10 or 12 seconds, but it felt like a minute, like the walls stretched slightly around me, distorting, warping in slow, imperceptible ways. I didn't touch it. That mattered. I don't know why, but it did. I just stood there in the silence of our bathroom, the sound of the shower still echoing faintly in my head even though it had been turned off for over half an hour. She always showered at night. Said it helped her sleep better. But last night, she didn't. Claimed she was too tired. Crawled into bed early and scrolled on her phone until she passed out, screen still glowing against her chest like a dying star. She'd been distant for weeks, months, maybe, but not the kind of distance that sets off alarms. The kind that can be explained by stress, by routine, by the slow erosion of novelty. The kind that makes you think, this is just marriage. But the green toothbrush didn't care about stress or routine. It was new, fresh. The bristles weren't worn. No watermarks on the handle. No stray toothpaste residue. It had been placed there with care. Too much care. I didn't say anything. I went through the rest of my morning in perfect order: shower, shave, dress, kiss on the cheek before heading to work, but that kiss wasn't real. It was theater. A gesture, nothing more. Her skin felt wrong against my lips, as if I were pressing against a stranger. And maybe I was. All day, that toothbrush haunted me. I thought about it during meetings, saw its color behind the eyes of clients, heard the soft scratch of bristles in every ambient noise. I didn't mention it to anyone. I didn't need to. It wasn't just a toothbrush. It was a fracture. A hairline crack that, once seen, could never be unseen. Because here's the thing. If someone leaves a shirt, or underwear, or some cliché article of clothing behind, that's sloppiness. That's arrogance. But a toothbrush? That's intimacy. That's someone who expects to be back. Someone who believes they belong. Someone who feels comfortable enough to bring an instrument of hygiene into another man's home and nestle it beside his own. That's not casual. That's not one night. That's planned. I spent the rest of the day watching her digital shadows. I didn't check her phone. I'm not that man. I didn't need to be. Her routine was predictable. School drop-off at 7:45. Pilates at 9. Coffee with her sister at 11. Work-from-home nonsense in the afternoons. Except none of it lined up. The GPS in her car had a recent destination logged as Harrison Place, a condo complex near the edge of the city. No Pilates studio there. No coffee shop either. I checked. Twice. Still, I didn't confront. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. That's how you lose. That's how you tip your hand. Instead, I went home early. Told my office I had a stomach bug. Picked up our son from school and took him for ice cream. Watched him smile, watched the way his face lit up when he got extra sprinkles. The innocence there, the trust, it hurt in ways I can't fully explain. But I held it together. She got home at 6. Smiled like always. Kissed my cheek like always. And I smiled back. We ate dinner. Talked about our days. She lied. I knew. And I kept smiling. But the toothbrush was still there, like a ghost at the edge of my vision, whispering truths in its green silence. I never asked about it. Never mentioned it. Just watched her move around the bathroom, using her red brush, ignoring the green one like it didn't exist. That's how I knew. She saw it too. She was pretending, just like me. But only one of us had already started planning. It was a Thursday when she started saying, I just need some space, but it wasn't about an argument. We weren't fighting. There was no shouting, no slam doors, not even passive-aggressive sighs. It was quieter than that. Too quiet. She said it with a smile as she wiped her hands on a dish towel, as if the words had nothing to do with me. Space is healthy, you know? Like she was quoting some podcast or article meant for people who already had one foot out the door. I nodded, like I understood. Like I agreed. But something about the way she said it. It didn't feel like a request. It felt like a closure I hadn't been invited to witness. She was still beautiful. Still the woman I married, at least on the surface. She laughed at the right times. Touched my arm when she thanked me for dinner. Sent me grocery lists with little hearts drawn in the margins. It all looked right. To anyone else, we were the same couple. Smiling at parent-teacher night. Coordinating schedules like a team. Taking turns walking the dog and dropping off dry cleaning. But the illusion had cracks now, and they were widening. Not big enough for anyone else to notice, just enough for me. She locked her phone. That was new. No explanation. Just a sudden change in behavior that didn't need to be explained. She started sleeping with it under her pillow, claiming she needed the alarm right next to her. When I offered to charge it for her one night, she flinched. Not dramatically, just a fraction of a second too long. Like a deer twitching at a sound it hoped it hadn't heard. And then there were the messages. Not the ones she sent. Those were carefully curated. But the ones she didn't reply to. I saw them once, by accident, or maybe because I was looking, even if I told myself I wasn't. She left her screen on, the message banner half lit. A name I didn't recognize. J. No last name. Just J. The message said, "Did you tell him yet?" And it vanished before I could see more. I never asked. I never needed to. She started using phrases that didn't belong to her. Personal growth. Self-actualization. Emotional bandwidth. Words from other people's mouths, regurgitated into our conversations like stray code slipping into clean software. She spoke of boundaries with a practiced calm, like she'd been coached on how to say it without sounding cruel. She never included me in those plans. Never once said we. Just, I've been thinking, and I need, and it's important to me. She was always busy now. With herself. Her projects, her new routines. She said she was writing again, but I never saw any pages. She said she joined a yoga group, but never mentioned any names. Everything about her life outside this house had become vague, like she was deliberately sanding down the details, dulling every edge until there was nothing for me to grip. She smiled too much, but only when she thought I was watching. And that smile, God, that smile, it wasn't hers anymore. It was stretched too wide, too perfect, like a rehearsed expression from someone playing wife in a play she no longer believed in. Her eyes didn't match. Her eyes were always somewhere else. She forgot our anniversary. Not completely. She remembered the day, bought a card, even cooked. But she signed it with my name. Love, Andrew. My name. Her own husband's name. And she didn't even notice. I stared at the card for a long time, longer than I should have, and when I looked up, she was on her phone, smiling at something I couldn't see. I didn't say a word. I just placed the card back on the table and let it sit there like evidence neither of us would ever mention. But the false climax came 3 days later. It was late. She said she was going to bed early. Headache. She kissed me on the cheek and climbed the stairs. I waited 15 minutes. Then another 15. Quiet. No movement. No light from under the door. I moved slow, careful. Our hallway creaked on the third board near the guest room, so I stepped over it. I pressed my ear to the door, and then I heard it. Whispers. Not words. Just soft, low murmurs. Her voice, but not like when she was on the phone. This was softer, slower. It had that intimate cadence people only use when they think no one else is listening. I should have opened the door. I should have pushed it open and ended it right then. But I didn't. Because the whispering stopped the moment I reached for the knob. Not a slow fade. A cut. As if someone had pressed pause. I waited. Waited longer. Then walked away. She came down the next morning cheerful, glowing. Said she slept great. Made coffee. Hummed to herself like the night before never happened. I watched her carefully, studied every move, every gesture. She was back in the role. Perfect wife. Perfect mother. But now I knew the script. I knew it wasn't real. I smiled back. But I didn't believe a word. Not anymore. I didn't feel broken. I felt ready. It happened on a Sunday. Late morning, just before brunch. The house thick with the smell of bacon and vanilla candles she liked to burn because they made the kitchen feel warm. She was upstairs, supposedly finishing a Zoom call for one of her consulting projects, a vague job she picked up 6 months ago that never seemed to produce invoices or results. Just long hours behind a closed door and a growing distance between us. I wasn't suspicious that day, not exactly. I was resigned, orbiting her in the quiet dead space of what we still called marriage. I was putting dishes away, not even looking for anything, when I found it, tucked at the back of the second drawer in the kitchen island, behind the serving spoons we never used unless we had company. A man's watch. Silver, with a navy blue face. I picked it up, felt the weight of it in my hand. It was too heavy to be cheap. The band still warm. There were initials engraved on the back, DF, not mine. Not her father's. Not anyone I knew. A scratch across the clasp suggested it had been worn often. This wasn't a forgotten gift or a misdelivered package. This had been left here. Deliberately. And I knew instantly, completely, that it had been left by him. The man whose name she never said, whose face I had never seen, whose existence had lived only in the void between us, the one she filled with careful half-truths and counterfeit smiles. The drawer was deep, narrow, the kind you only open if you're searching for something specific. Which meant she didn't expect me to find it. Which meant he thought he was safe. And that was the moment, right there, with the smell of her stupid candle still clinging to the air and her voice echoing faintly from upstairs, fake and professional, that something inside me shifted. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt clean. Cold. Like someone had thrown a switch. The questions died in me all at once. I didn't need to ask who he was. I didn't need to know how long it had been going on. The details were irrelevant now. What mattered was the insult. The audacity. The level of comfort he felt, walking into my house, sharing her bed, eating my food, leaving behind personal items like trophies in a conquered space. He thought this was his territory. That was the real betrayal, not just that she had given herself to someone else, but that she had made space for him here. In my domain. Like I was already gone. Like I was a ghost. I put the watch back exactly where I found it. Closed the drawer quietly. Sat down at the kitchen table and waited. She came down 20 minutes later, barefoot, still glowing from the call, her hair tied back loosely like it used to be when we were younger. She kissed me on the forehead, asked if the coffee was still hot. I looked her dead in the eyes and smiled. Just made a fresh pot, I said. And in that moment, I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her adversary. I watched the way she moved around the kitchen, light on her feet, humming to herself as if the world was still spinning in her favor. She had no idea the war had already started, that I had seen the flag she'd raised on my soil, that I was done asking, wondering, hoping. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. That would give her too much power. What I needed now was time. Time to plan. Time to think. Time to dismantle her carefully constructed fiction piece by piece until she was left with nothing but truth and regret. I played along. Asked about her day. Made plans for dinner. Said I might take our son to the park in the afternoon. She nodded, distracted, already scrolling her phone, thumb flicking through a world I no longer belonged to. I wasn't looking for apologies anymore. I was designing consequences. Quietly. Precisely. And when I moved, it would be surgical. No screaming. No begging. Just one calculated strike after another until everything she thought she'd built, this new life, this secret world, collapsed around her. She thought I was still asleep. Still confused. Still hoping to save what she'd already buried. But I was wide awake. And the reckoning had begun. It started in the kitchen, where it always did. The illusion of normalcy, dinner being plated, the low hum of jazz on the speaker she used to call ambience. She was stirring something on the stove, humming a tune I didn't recognize, swaying like nothing was wrong. Like our marriage hadn't become a mausoleum where she buried pieces of me daily. I waited until she turned around with that artificial cheer on her face and said, "Can you grab the plates, babe?" Like I hadn't found the man's watch in our drawer, like I didn't already know everything. I moved slowly, deliberately, and instead of grabbing plates, I opened the drawer, picked up the watch, turned it over once in my palm and placed it gently on the table in front of her. She froze. Just for a second. Just enough. Her eyes locked on it. Blinked. Then she smiled, small and sharp. "Oh, that. I meant to tell you. That's from my brother. He left it when he visited a few weeks ago. You remember, don't you?" Her voice was sweet. Practiced. Like honey over glass. I didn't respond. I just stared. A long, quiet stare. She broke first. "What?" she said, defensive now. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I slid my phone across the table next. Unlocked. Opened to the photo I'd taken of her phone screen when she left it charging in the hallway last week. An open text thread with J. No full name. Just J. But the message said it all. "I hate lying to him. But I love being with you." She didn't speak at first. Just pressed her lips together and looked down, as if the floor might save her. "That's not," she started, then paused. You took pictures of my phone? Are you serious? Deflection. Classic. I waited. You went through my stuff like some jealous teenager? She added, louder this time. I tilted my head. Calm. I didn't go through your phone. You left it unlocked. You just didn't expect me to look anymore. Her eyes narrowed. So what? You've been spying on me now. Is that the kind of man you are? No, I said, voice steady. I'm the kind of man who stopped trusting the woman he married when she started treating his house like a hotel for her affair partner. The smirk broke through then, her arrogance finally surfacing. You're blowing this out of proportion. It wasn't like that. It's not serious. I laughed once. Not because it was funny, but because the delusion was so complete. So he just leaves jewelry behind for fun? You let him use our bed, our shower, our plates, and you think it's not serious? She raised her chin, defiant. Maybe if you'd been present. Maybe if you hadn't made everything about work and control and silence, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. There it was. Guilt shifting. The final refuge of a cornered liar. I stepped closer, voice lower. No, you don't get to rewrite history. I was there when you had panic attacks. I was there when your mother fell apart. I was there when you said you didn't believe in yourself anymore. I held you together while you decided you wanted to be someone new. And when you finally figured out who she was, she had no room for me. Her face faltered, just slightly. It wasn't about you. Exactly, I said. It never was. She tried to soften then, tried to reach out, fingers trembling. Can we just talk? Like adults? I didn't want it to turn into this. It got out of hand. I know. I cut in. You managed this. You planned it. You compartmentalized every piece of your life like a machine. You lied with precision. You left him things here. You brought him into this house, into our son's space. Don't you dare act like this spiraled. You drove it straight into the wall. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't care enough to avoid it. I said, sharper now. You just hoped I'd stay blind long enough for it not to matter. You wanted the safety net of me and the thrill of him. You wanted to be adored without the responsibility of being honest. Her hands were shaking now. Tears formed, but I didn't move. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know what I was doing. I leaned forward, met her eyes, my voice a knife. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't think I'd ever stop playing along. She collapsed into the chair, sobbing softly now, mascara streaking down her cheek. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. No more words. No more spin. No more deflection. Just silence. Raw, honest silence. And I stood there, watching, not out of pity, not out of pain, but because she needed to see what it looked like when the mask finally cracked and there was no one left to fool. I didn't leave. I just watched her break. And that was the real ending. Not when I walked away, not when I exposed her, but when she saw herself, really saw it, and realized she'd burned everything good in her life for nothing. She followed me upstairs like a shadow that didn't want to be left behind, her voice chasing me from the kitchen, shaky, sharp, slipping between tones like she was trying on emotions to see which one might still work. You're overreacting, she said first, her words bouncing off the hallway walls like rubber bullets, designed to sting but not to land. It's not like I ran off and started another family. It was just a phase, just a mistake. I didn't answer. I opened the drawer, grabbed a fresh shirt, changed in silence while she stood in the doorway, arms folded like she still had control. You've made mistakes too, she pushed, more defensive now. Don't act like you're some perfect saint. You checked my phone, remember? You went through my things. Who even are you lately? I buttoned the shirt slowly. No rush. Every second I didn't answer seemed to tighten something in her chest. She stepped closer. You don't get to just throw this all away. You're not better than me. And then came the shift. Her voice cracked. Eyes welled up again. I was lonely. I didn't feel seen. You shut me out months ago. You were there, but not really there. I tried to talk to you. You just stopped listening. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did, and I needed something. I needed to feel alive again. Her hand reached for mine, and I let her touch it for exactly 1 second before I stepped back. You'll never find someone who loves you like I did, she whispered then, as if those words still held power. I turned to face her, finally, and I saw her unraveling, the panic in her eyes trying to reconstruct the foundation she'd burned. You're right, I said calmly. I won't. Because love isn't manipulation wrapped in affection. It's not deception dressed up as independence. And it's not pretending to be a partner while auditioning for replacements in your spare time. She swallowed hard, but I didn't stop. You say you were lonely, that I wasn't present. But you never once told me you were unhappy. You told your friends. You told him. But you didn't tell me. You wanted the perks of a marriage without the accountability of one. She shook her head, stepping closer, voice pleading now. That's not true. I did try. I begged you to take time off work, to slow down, to notice me. No, I corrected her. You wanted me distracted. You wanted me working late so you could live your second life without interruption. You waited until I was exhausted enough to stop asking questions, and then you moved him in, piece by piece. You didn't want attention. You wanted freedom. And you got it. So congratulations. She looked like she might fall apart right there, in the hallway where family photos still hung pictures of vacations, birthdays, frozen smiles that meant nothing now. We can fix this, she whispered. We can go to counseling. We can rebuild. You don't rebuild on ashes, I replied, voice flat. You wanted space. You wanted growth. You wanted to feel alive. So go chase that. You're free now. No one's stopping you. She started sobbing then, no longer pretending, no longer posing, just raw panic and desperation. Please, don't do this. Don't throw away years. We have a son. We have a life. And finally, I stepped forward. Not to comfort. Not to hurt. Just to end it. You threw it away. When you let him stand where I should have stood. When you smiled at me with his scent still on you. When you walked around this house like I was the ghost. You ended this. I'm just giving it a name. Her knees buckled, and she sat down on the edge of the bed, head in her hands, choking on sobs that weren't for me, they were for herself. For the version of her life she thought she could maintain indefinitely. She looked up once more, voice hoarse, almost childlike. What am I supposed to do now? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just watched. And that silence, that unbearable, irreversible silence, was the last word she would ever get from the man she thought would never leave. She showed up at my office 2 months after the divorce finalized, makeup smeared, hair pulled back like she'd forgotten how to style it, wearing the same jacket she used to mock for being too plain. She waited by the front doors like a ghost who didn't know she wasn't welcome. I saw her before she saw me. I almost walked past her. Almost. But curiosity held me still. She looked thinner. Not in a way that suggested health or effort, just worn down. Faded. Her voice cracked when she said my name, like saying it pulled something from her ribcage. Can we talk? She asked, hands clenched in front of her, the confidence long since drained from her posture. I've been trying to reach you. I nodded once. Said nothing. She kept going. I made a mistake. I know I did. Everything's gone now. He left. My friends won't even answer me. I lost my job last week. I can't even walk into the coffee shop without people whispering. She laughed then, bitter and broken. I thought I was building something new. But it all fell apart. Her eyes welled up, and for a second, I could almost see the woman I used to love. Almost. You were my home, she whispered. You were the only person who ever really saw me. We were soulmates. Please, just talk to me. I looked at her for a long moment. Not with anger. Not with pity. But with distance. Cold, clear distance. Because the woman standing in front of me wasn't the woman I married. She wasn't even the woman who betrayed me. She was someone else entirely now. A stranger with my memories. A silhouette of her former self, hollowed out by her own choices. I did love you, I said, finally. Once. Completely. But that version of you doesn't exist anymore. She died the day you brought another man into our life like I wouldn't notice. Like I wouldn't matter. Her lips trembled, but I didn't stop. You wanted to feel free. You wanted to feel powerful. You used me like a backup plan until your fantasy fell apart. And now you're back because there's no one else to catch you. She shook her head desperately. No, that's not why. Yes, I cut in, softly but with steel. It is. And that's the difference between us. You always needed someone to validate your story. I don't. I already lived it. I buried it. And now I'm writing something new. Without you. Her eyes filled, her mouth opened to speak, but nothing came out. I walked past her then, out the door and into the sun, the air cleaner without her in it. She didn't follow. She didn't call again. That was the last time I saw her in person. But every few weeks, I still get messages. Quiet, sad things. I miss you. Do you ever think of me? I'm sorry. I never reply. Because I don't need revenge anymore. I don't need to remind her of what she lost. She wakes up with that truth every morning, and it haunts her better than I ever could. She made me a stranger the moment she invited someone else into the world we built. And now she's the one wandering it alone. Thanks for listening. Let me know where you're watching from and what you would have done if it were your wife.